All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to today's coverage of Cup Series qualifying from the Atlanta Motor Speedway for this weekend's playoff opener on the NASCAR Cup Series side of things. And this qualifying, of course, taking place in the Quaker State 400, which is the title sponsor for this weekend. Another super speedway race just 2 weeks after we had one at Daytona towards the end of the regular season a couple weeks ago. This one, though, the first race of the round of 16. So 16 drivers vouching for their spot in the championship four over the next 9 races. 3 races per round, of course. Same format that we've seen in the point system since 2017 with the stages and the same knockout round style format that we have seen since 2014. So hard to believe it's been 11 years already of this, but here we are, and we'll go over the point standings a little bit more in depth as we get into qualifying during the next commercial break or so, because we're already starting things off hot. JJ Yeley on track, first car to qualify here this weekend. 38 cars on the entry list for the Cup Series this week. 2 non-chartered entries, and of course the usual 36 chartered cars. The 2 non-chartered entries, JJ Yeley, BJ McLeod. Yeley driving the 44 for New York Racing and the 78 for BJ McLeod at Live Fast Motorsports, cell phone team, of course, there. Yeley wrapping up his qualifying lap just as I speak here, 32.625 as we get things started off. Format for qualifying today, all 40 cars in the first round. No group qualifying with the way the rule format is for Cup Series qualifying on super speedways. This is considered now a super speedway or drafting style racetrack. Of course, having that kind of package here this weekend at Atlanta since the repave and reconfiguration back before 2022. So as far as this weekend goes, all 40 cars in the first round of qualifying, top 10 will make it into round 2 and a shot to re-qualify for the pole. So we'll be looking at the top 10 as being the cutoff. The first 10 drivers to qualify today, JJ Yeley, BJ McLeod, followed by Cody Ware, Shane Van Gisbergen, Noah Gragson, Daniel Hemrick, John Hunter Nemechek, Zane Smith, Justin Haley, and Josh Berry. So again, those are the first 10 drivers who will make their qualifying lap, and just 1 lap per driver as well. So you're not really going to carry a lot of speed until you get off of turn 4 on your warm-up lap, and even then you might not be all the way up to speed until you really get into turn 1 from exiting pit road. It's very slow pit road speed. Granted, they don't have to travel all the way down pit road, but still, it's a very short racetrack. Usually, obviously, with this drafting package, you would see a 2.5-mile oval, but with it only being a 1.5-mile oval, speeds are going to be down quite significantly in qualifying from what we'll see in the race. And that's not even counting the fact that this is single car qualifying versus, of course, in the draft when the race begins. No practice this weekend. That has been installed for all 3 of the top competitive series in NASCAR, Truck, Xfinity, and Cup on super speedway or drafting style racetracks. The only time we did see practice this year was the season opener at Daytona with the Daytona 500 weekend, but we have not seen practice sessions since then on the super speedway. So just qualifying here this weekend, at least in prelude to the race. BJ McLeod rounded his lap time up at a 32.251. You can see that on our leaderboard on screen. So 2 drivers are now in the qualifying books. And up next is Cody Ware in the 15 for Rick Ware Racing, making another start this season. Had his first career top 5 finish at Daytona just 2 weeks ago, so we'll see what he can do here this weekend with not a long time out of the car. When Daytona obviously started the year off as usual with the Daytona 500, then having Atlanta as the second race of the year. And not a long time before those drafting tracks. Cody Ware definitely tracking in the green on BJ McLeod. He's going to be the first of 3, 31.548. It's over a second quicker than JJ Yeley's lap time and about 7/10 quicker than BJ McLeod's lap. Shane Van Gisbergen back in the car yet again this weekend. It'll be the 3rd consecutive week he's been in the 16 for Colleague Racing. On pit road, Kim Kuhn is caught up with Corey LaJoy.
It's super speedway qualifying. We know it's pretty straightforward at Daytona. At Talladega here, the radius of 3 and 4 much tighter. Handling comes into play. How much more challenging is qualifying at Atlanta?
You're going to committed to hold a wide open regardless, but you're really at the mercy of how hard those engineers feel like they want to land on the right rear stop. So you'll see some of these cars be really squirrely if they're really pound it into that right rear stop. You know, we've hit our heights fairly decent the last couple times here, so I feel good about it. But we're going to try to trim our car out a little bit more today, try to get a little more track position, start up higher than we usually do, and see if we can't get this Cambridge Camaro out front.
Corey coming off a great run at Darlington with a top 10 finish there.
Best run of the year, Kim, for Corey LaJoy.
And the 16 is tracking in the green of SVG on his actual lap time right now. Looks to be about a half a tenth or so to the good entering turn 3. And he will end up at the top of the speed charts. 31.457 for Shane Van Gisbergen. We'll see where he ends up in qualifying at the end of this one here today. Definitely be interesting to see. Quick shout out to those of you that are watching this stream here in the early going. I get the chat pulled up on my phone real quick. Quite a few of you in here already. Appreciate it. Trainskate 1024. Wade, thanks for tuning in as always. Bronny 24ever. And Richard Carsey. Now on track is Noah Gregson, the first of the 4 SHR cars to qualify.
Those wins in the Xfinity Series, and we're going to put them against who I think are the best stock car drivers in the world at a road course where they're the most comfortable. First of the Stewart-Haas forwards that we will see throughout this qualifying session, here's Noah Gregson.
I think if SVG can be within 0.2 of a second of this 10 car, they'll be pretty happy. Stewart-Haas has brought a ton of speed to all of the drafting tracks this year.
It's just Fords in general.
Faster. Approaching turn 4. The Stewart-Haas car most likely will be in contention for this pole today. It took about a 31 flat to sit on the pole in the spring. So a 31.20, I think will be close to being in the top 10 speed. We'll just have to see how it stacks up. Now, to be clear, they're probably going to have to be the front row car to do it, but they have been very fast.
Yeah, if we think back to Daytona just 2 races ago, that was a mighty performance from Front Row Motorsports to lock out the front row for the first time in that team's history. You hear the roar of another car getting up to speed. On track now is Daniel Hemrick. Lovely day here in Georgia, by the way. It's about 80 degrees. There was a little overnight shower and the track was damp earlier this morning, but bathed in sunshine now. Really lovely day to go qualifying.
That's beautiful here. You know, really haven't heard for next year yet, Noah Gregson, Daniel Hemrick, and what his plans are. Normally by now we would kind of know what he's got going on, but some question marks right now about what his future is.
Well, we know one Pollock car will be AJ Allmendinger, but we don't know what the second Cup Pollock car will look like as well. Pretty good lap right here out of the 31. He's going to be faster than his teammate SVG. He's going to be right on the heels of Gregson, I believe. There it is. Pushes his way to second. So Noah Gregson, Daniel Hemrick, Shane Van Gisbergen. As we rejoin Kim, who you got now, Kim?
Kyle Busch, he finished runner-up the last 2 races, and of course part of that pre-wine finish here in the spring. But as we look at this race tomorrow, you and I were talking about the weather difference. It's supposed to be a little bit cooler. Despite that, though, we'll be racing in the day. How different do you expect the race to be in the daytime here versus the night?
I don't think it'll be that much different. Maybe a little bit, just because it is 20 degrees ambient more than what it was in the spring. So naturally hotter, naturally slicker, anyways, and of course aging process of the asphalt still going on. But yeah, it should be fun. You know, our car was really good here in the spring. Obviously, we got a top 3 finish out of it. I don't know how many inches short it was, but hopefully this time around, though, with our global industrial Camaro, we can be right up there again, challenging for a win and just get a good qualifying spot today. Maybe make top 10. That'll kind of prove that your car got good speed, and then go race with everybody tomorrow.
Every games, can you guys play spoiler during these playoffs?
That's the plan. We have to, right? So we got to get that win and be able to seize on a victory for the 20-year streak. That's sort of the goal. But would love to have had done it the last 2 weeks, finishing second, being oh so close. But unfortunately, this wasn't meant for us. So we'll have to try to get it today or in the next night.
Over the last 3 races, as John Hunter Nemechek finishes up his qualifying run, Steve, over the last 3 races, nobody's had better results cumulatively than Kyle Busch. 4th, 2nd, Christopher Bell's had a couple of top 3 results in the last 2 races, but those 3 race streaks, nobody better than the 8.
Yeah, I mean, they can look at this season as disappointing because they're not in the playoffs, but I've been saying this now for a couple months, and Kyle just mentioned it there. You know, he holds the current record with 19 years in a row, and if he could win this year, that'd be 20 years, 2 decades straight where Kyle Busch had won at the Cup level every single year. And I think if they can pull that off, it would take away a lot of the sting of missing the playoffs. And that record that you just talked about gives me hope that it's right around the corner.
Up next is Zane Smith. First of the Spire cars that we've seen in this Cup qualifying session here at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yeah, Zane and his team have been doing a good job. Like second at Nashville, 7th at Michigan. He's another driver. We're not sure yet what his future is next year. You think about Zane, Kyle Busch, right? The last 2 weeks, seconds, right? Right there. Zane's had a few chances, you know, where if things would have gone a little differently, could have won a race and could have completely changed the direction of their year.
And that and better health Chevy is going to be nice to spot. That's going to be easy to spot.
Shouldn't confuse it with anything else.
In tomorrow's what is expected to be somewhat chaotic at times, Quaker State 400. So much to look forward to tomorrow. Not only because it's the first one of the playoffs. How's it going to race? How's this track going to differ in the daylight to the nighttime race from earlier in the year? Here's Justin Haley.
Can I tell this story already?
Go for it.
They're not going to qualify great, and at some point he's going to lead this race. That seems to me to be what this team does every draft and type racetrack, Steve, is they don't really show pace. Like in qualifying by themselves, they never are the fastest car by any means, but Justin Haley at some point puts himself in the position to get a win, to be in the right spot at the right time. And I expect the exact same tomorrow.
It's just that it seems like he has this natural feel for the draft. We saw his Xfinity Series record winning at the speedways where he doesn't really think about it. He just reacts to what the traffic's doing, and I think that's the reason he puts himself in those positions you mentioned, Jeff. And Justin slots himself into the 4th place provisionally at the moment. Qualifying up and running here in Atlanta.
All right, so 9 drivers have taken the racetrack for qualifying so far. Your running order has Noah Gragson in the lead, a top time of a 31.209. Daniel Hemrick second, about 16 one-thousandths of a second off of Noah Gregson's fast lap. Shane Van Gisbergen in a 0.2 of a second gap back in third. Justin Haley sits fourth as he just qualified. His teammate Cody Ware in fifth, Zane Smith sixth, John Hunter Nemechek seventh, BJ McLeod in eighth, and JJ Yaley ninth. So those are the 9 drivers in order in which they have qualified so far. Again, all 40 cars in round 1, and all the playoff drivers will be the final 16 as well to qualify. I did not preface that earlier, so all 16 playoff drivers will be the last 16 to qualify in round 1. Top 10 from round 1 advance to round 2, and they'll have another lap to try to go for the pole and requalify the top 10 running order. So we're only locking up positions 11 through 38 here in round 1. Next 9 drivers to qualify will be Josh Berry, then Michael McDowell, who may have a good chance of going for the pole. He sat on the pole here earlier in the spring. Carson Hocevar after McDowell and Berry. And then you got Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Eric Jones, Austin Dillon, Ryan Preece, Todd Gillen, and Corey LaJoie. I put a poll in the chat there recently as far as who you think is going to qualify on the pole today. I know those aren't huge names other than Joey Logano that you would see typically in the poll, but I think those are personally the 3 favorites for the poll today. Gillen and McDowell swept the front row at Daytona 2 weeks ago, and Gillen's had a couple of front row starts as well on super speedways this season. Michael McDowell has 5 poles this year, 4 on super speedways, and the only driver who qualified on the pole other than McDowell in a super speedway is Joey Logano, which was back in the Daytona 500. Logano also started on the front row in the spring race, started second. So we'll see what those Fords will bring here today. I would be shocked if a non-Ford driver ends up on the front row, but you'll have until the end of this first round to vote there. Take a look at the playoff standings on screen now while they're under a full screen commercial break. Kyle Larson comes into this playoff opener as the number 1 seed, plus 35 points, 40 playoff points overall for Larson. Plus 27 for Christopher Bell. Tyler Reddick by 1 point winning the regular season championship a week ago at Darlington. That allows him an extra 15 playoff points, so goes from 8 to 23. That's huge for him. He's the 3rd seed overall. William Byron is plus 17 points. Then you got Ryan Blaney plus 13, plus 10 for Denny Hamlin, plus 9 for the number 9 Chase Elliott, plus 3 for Brad Keselowski, plus 2 for Joey Logano and Austin Cindric, plus 1 point for Daniel Suarez, and a tie as we start this round of the playoffs between Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, and Harrison Burton for the 12th and final spot to advance to the next round. Ty Gibbs minus 1 point, Martin Truex Jr. minus 1 as well. So they're the only 2 drivers in the playoff field without a win this season. Josh Berry now on the racetrack as the commercial break is over. He is the 10th driver to qualify here. Tracking in the green on his teammate Noah Gragson as of right now, putting together a pretty good lap. And as Berry's going to wrap things up here, Josh Berry to the top of the speed charts, 31.160. Almost 0.05 of a second quicker than his teammate Noah Gragson.
Didn't work out, but good qualifying effort here.
I like you said a wreck. Man,
Yeah.
slid on his roof across the backstretch, hitting the wall upside down. That was the memorable wreck of the race.
That wasn't a good enough description.
And, like I wanted a little bit more flair. I mean, he went ahead. He had some flair in the wreck.
Well, let's look at it.
Only a driver said that was a wreck. That was a wreck.
The flair was he got out and said, "Yeah, I'm okay."
Yeah, good point.
No worries.
This is why drivers need short memories. Upside down, fire flying around, head on to the wall. I mean, this scared me, to be honest with you. That car flipped over. This part I'm good. And now, how many times have we seen a car hit head on into the wall, upside down with the driver hanging on in the seat just by his harness system? It's just not something you can test. You don't really know what's going to happen. It scared me.
Is a specialist in qualifying on these kind of tracks. Michael McDowell in the Blaster 34 for Front Row Motorsports is going
The Blaster car's blasting to the top of the leaderboard.
Today in Atlanta.
And the question I have for you, Steve, is do you want to sit on the pole here? And when I ask that, clearly everybody wants to go as fast as they can go, right? But with the summer, look how fast that is. With the summer heat that Kyle Busch just talked about, and potentially the track getting more slick, can you go too fast and get your car in a situation where it doesn't drive well, and then you can't do the things you need to do tomorrow? We don't know the answer, I don't think, but that would be my concern if I was driving that 34. Is this thing too fast?
Well, the list of approved adjustment is great. I mean, it's a long list. So you could take roll bar out of it. You could change the ride height. You could make a very significant shift in balance. What you can't change is how stiff the rear springs are. We heard Corey LaJoy talk about how aggressive you want to sit on the stop. So basically the shocks bottom out. That's a limiting factor. So, I think I'm with you, Jeff, right? Like, I don't think I would want to race the car he just qualified as it sits, but how much can they adjust it to put it in some sort of race trim?
It was track record pace
Sure was.
on this configuration. So clearly they had it dialed in for speed.
Michael McDowell has won the pole for the last 3 drafting tracks. So we'll see if that trend continues. Here's Carson Hocevar at 77. Things went a little sideways for him last weekend in Darlington as he finishes his qualifying run 8th at the moment. As we hear from the man who just 2 races ago went all the way to victory lane, Harrison Burton with Kim.
Yeah, Harrison Burton getting the Daytona win, giving him his first playoff appearance. So I have to ask, you've been part of the season, but not the postseason before. How different does it feel this year?
It's pretty different. I mean, there's a little bit more pressure on everything you do, right? Every restart, every time you get past one guy, that's a point, and your mind starts to think of it that way. And I think that could be a good thing for us, right? It kind of brings our team together. We have a common goal, something that we're all kind of working for and focusing on, and makes it fun for us to kind of have a reset, right? We didn't have the season we wanted. We didn't quit on each other. We went out, won a race, and now it's up to us to make the most out of the situation that we've been given now.
Don't forget to enjoy it too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the easy part.
Harrison also making his 100th career start this weekend.
100 starts, got to win before that 100th start. If I was Jerry Bullins, the crew chief for Harrison Burton, I think I would have that "why not us" mantra. I believe that no one expected them to be here. I'm not sure they expected to be here. So, as Ken said, don't forget to enjoy it. That's what I would do. As everybody else starts to tighten up around the playoffs and what's at stake, he started talking about those points as we see Stenhouse jump to fifth. I would try to free everybody up by saying, look, let everybody else count points. Let's make it uncomfortable for the ones that think they have to move on for it to be a good season.
Ricky Stenhouse positions himself middle of that provisional top 10 at the moment. As we continue working our way through. Next up, Eric Jones. Legacy Motor Club in the Dollar Tree machine. Here we go.
It's been a frustrating year for these race teams at Legacy for sure. And, it's the first year with Toyota, a lot of growing pains. I'm sure a lot of fans are questioning, what's going on over there. I think it's just a matter of time. The team is committed, to having a good race team, to hiring the right people. They have the budget that's necessary. They have a good set of drivers. It just takes time. You just don't go into this series and have a change that big. This is a young race team on top of that. But I think the future is really, really bright for this organization.
Stunning as what they were last weekend in Darlington over the history of his time in the Cup Series, but he has had a couple of top 10s here. He's run solid. That's exactly where he is now in 10th after that qualifying run. So Kim Coon.
William Byron has 2 wins on the Atlanta new configuration. And as we talk about what the driver's responsible for, how much more involved are you behind the wheel versus the other super speedways?
Well, this is just a really hybrid racetrack. So you're going to have some lifting in the corners, especially if you're further back. And you're just trying to find the right balance between that and having speed. So it is much different here, but I feel like we've got a pretty good balance here for the most part at Atlanta. And just trying to feel like we know the formula to run well here. It's just trying to stay up front, and do the right things all day. So we'll see how it goes.
I'll follow his progress shortly. William Byron. Meanwhile, on track now, he's Austin Dillon. And this weekend, I imagine it's going to feel a little strange, right? He kept the win from Richmond with that controversial finish, lost the appeals. Has a win on the board, but the win didn't count for the playoffs, so he's still sitting on the outside looking in, and that'll be more than just a little frustrating. Maybe last week there was still a hope. Now he knows that he won't be in the playoffs, and he pushes car 3 to position 3. And here's a reminder of what went down in Richmond.
Last lap, aggressive move into the back of the 22. And here comes Denny Hamlin contacting the right rear, and a lot of conversation. It took several days for NASCAR to get to the point where they said, okay, we can keep the win, but that was too excessive, and your penalty is that you are no longer eligible for the playoffs. And that is, Richard Childress and Austin Dillon didn't agree with it. They felt like it was aggressive, but that was the nature of NASCAR. But NASCAR felt like it was over the line, it was too much, and they made the call.
Continuing to work through the Stewart-Haas cars. Up next, it's Ryan Preece. Three made it. Three didn't make it. One did. And a little later in this running order, we will see the winner of last weekend, Chase Briscoe, with that spectacular finish. But right now, what kind of work is his teammate doing? Steve, he's up. He's in the green.
He's in the green. He's not going to match the pace of Barry, I don't believe. It's going to be somewhere in the 20s. Yeah, let's see what he runs there. 31:36 currently. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough for the Stewart-Haas.
No, I don't think so.
Are from the fast time, a 10th and a half off his teammate in the 4. A little bit bigger spread than what we've seen out of the Stewart-Haas Racing Ford. Normally we see them very condensed in qualifying, but we have them spread out by, 10th and a half so far. I wonder if that's just different philosophies going into this race. Maybe this team feels like, you heard William Byron saying that you're going to be lifting off the throttle, right, in the corners, where at Daytona and Talladega, you don't. And maybe this team just feels like with the added heat because of the time of the year that this race is, some more time on the racetrack as far as wear, that they're just looking for drivability and maybe has some speed dialed out of it.
All right, let's see if we can get a repeat of Daytona just 2 weeks ago with the front row guys on the front row. And that's not going to be determined right here, right now, but it'll give us a window into later in this qualifying session. Michael McDowell sits on the top spot. Here's Todd Gilliland, his teammate.
The tracker is just running away down in the green.
Todd led laps here earlier in the year. In just the second race on the season, so that'll be positive memories as he comes to the line. To Steve's point, almost half a second to the better. And look at that, front row thoughts 1 and 2. They got that speed you were talking about, Jess.
Yeah, I just they've proven it over and over and over. They're gonna have brain speed to these racetracks. I'll say this too. Todd was also in position. He was right there at Daytona with a shot to win that race, and I think that so many people can say that, right? The last race at Daytona, I had a chance to win. I got wrecked. So many people come into this event thinking they can win this race, and yeah, they're not in the playoffs. They'd much rather be in the playoffs, but they don't care when the win comes, right? And if they will not slack off just because they're not in the playoffs.
He's one of those drivers, 98 starts, right? We always talk about somewhere around 100 starts. Todd's dancing in those 90s. Wouldn't shock me. Heard Corey LaJoy talk about trying to get a little bit better qualifying effort, being aggressive on their heights. Looks like it drives okay.
But it shows you how impressive the McDowell and Gilliland front row, and shows you how impressive the speed is that they bring. Corey just said, we got it all right here. We're trying to qualify better. And still, quite a few tenths of a second off. Lee?
So the two front row cars, top of the leaderboard, no surprise there. Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland, P1, P2, almost a tenth of a second difference between them, with McDowell still on the top of the speed charts. A 30.972, averaging out of 179 mile per hour flat on his average for that lap. Your Fast 10 as of right now, obviously, again, the front row cars, P1, P2, McDowell first, Gilliland second. Then you have Josh Berry third, Austin Dillon fourth, breaking up the Ford Brigade at the front of the field. Noah Gragson in fifth, Daniel Hemrick sixth, Ryan Preece seventh, Corey LaJoy eighth, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. ninth, and Shane Van Gisbergen in 10th. We're only halfway through round one of qualifying, 18 drivers down, and we still have actually... technically, we're not halfway. We'd be one more away from halfway. So 18 down, 20 to go, including all 16 playoff drivers. Next drivers to qualify will be Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Harrison Burton, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Ty Gibbs, and Daniel Suarez. That will be the next 9 drivers to qualify, and that will probably lead into another commercial break after that. So be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content. We have live NASCAR commentary streams every NASCAR race weekend for Truck Xfinity Cup races, as well as Cup qualifying and practice sessions. No practice again this week for the Cup Series, but here we are for qualifying. Our Xfinity Series race coverage later this afternoon will begin at 3 p.m. Eastern. Our Cup coverage tomorrow with the pre-race will begin at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be making my playoff predictions, as well as actual pre-race predictions compared to what we usually do for our pre-race for tomorrow's Cup Series race. But again, the Xfinity race later today, 3 p.m. Eastern. Qualifying just rounded up a little bit ago for the Xfinity Series. We'll take a quick look at the starting lineup for that. Let's find it here. Jesse Love on the pole for this weekend. Taylor Gray will be starting in second. Cole Custer third. Austin Hill fourth. We got Sheldon Creed fifth. A.J. Allmendinger sixth. Ryan Truex seventh, who was the most recent Super Speedway winner. He won at Daytona a couple weeks ago. Chandler Smith eighth. Riley Herbst ninth. And Justin Allgaier 10th. So that is the top 10 starting spots for the Xfinity Series race later today, the Focus Health 250. Bubba Wallace now on racetrack for the Cup Series side of things as we continue qualifying. Showing a replay of last weekend. Wallace qualifying on the pole for the first time this season for last weekend's Southern 500. And ended up as the second driver out of the playoff cut line, with, of course, Chase Briscoe getting his first win of the season last week, out Chris Buescher. So Buescher also not in the playoffs as we begin the postseason this weekend. Wallace tracking in the green to try to break the top 10 in qualifying. Toyotas have not shown a lot of speed in qualifying on the super speedways this season. In fact, at Daytona just 2 weeks ago, there were 0 Toyotas to qualify inside the top 10. So we'll see if that'll be the case again here. Wallace jumps to 8th on the leaderboard with a 31.355. Definitely not where he's going to want to be. Got a lot of Fords still to qualify that'll likely take up more of the top 10. Ford's actually swept the top 8 positions in qualifying at Daytona 2 weeks ago. Really, the RCR Chevrolets seem to be the top Chevrolet team in qualifying. I should say in speed in general at Daytona 2 weeks ago. Qualifying, there was 2 Hendrick Chevys in the top 10. I believe Byron and Larson were in there. So they could be a threat to make it to round 2. Chris Buescher's on track. Should be able to get into the top 10. Again, another one of those blue ovals, and he's looking to be almost a tenth to the good in the green entering turn 3 over Stenhouse, who is currently the bubble driver. And Buescher is in 7th. 31.264 for Chris Buescher, 7th overall, knocking Bubba back to 9th. Corey LaJoie now on the bubble, and Stenhouse out of the top 10. And up next is Ross Chastain in the number 1, the first of the 2 Trackhouse cars. Chastain also missing the playoffs. Definitely a shocker from coming into the season. Would have expected him to maybe make a deep playoff run. He was in the championship 4 just 2 seasons ago. Won the season finale last year at Phoenix as well, despite not being a part of the championship 4. And this year, unfortunately, has missed the 16-man playoff field entirely. His teammate Daniel Suarez is in because of a win in the spring Atlanta race earlier this year. If it wasn't for that win for Suarez, though, him being outside the top 16 in the driver points all year, we'd have 0 Trackhouse cars in the top 16 of points here at the end of the season. So definitely a dip in performance, even on a consistency level, from where they've been these first couple years of the next-gen car. Hopefully they can pick things back up again at the end of this season and lead themselves into a good spot when we begin 2024. Chastain's won 2 races a season his first 2 years with Trackhouse Racing, 2022, 2023, so that is perhaps in jeopardy with just 10 races to go this year. Haven't shown race-winning speed on a very often basis, especially in the second half of the regular season, so definitely going to have to pick things up here later in the year. Pick things up a little bit for qualifying, 31.272, 8th quickest of 21 qualifiers so far. I doubt that time is going to hold either. I think you're going to have to at least get a 31.1 to lock yourself in. If not, a low 31.2. I don't even trust the spot that like Buescher's in right now, the 2.64. Hemrick's going to be close. I think right around where you see Hemrick and Gregson on the speed charts right now, I think that's going to be about your cut line guys. Kyle Busch should break into the top 10. He's had good qualifying efforts on super speedways this year. Good overall speed, as I mentioned a little bit ago, from RCR in the super speedways this season. Busch tracking in the green on Bubba Wallace already. And turns 1 and 2, he's already about 0.6 or more to the good, carrying more speed down the backstretch now. And as you see on our lap time sheet, Kyle Busch does break into the top 10. A 31.237 for Kyle Busch, 7th. So it is ahead of that Buescher time, but not quite to that of where Noah Gragson and Daniel Hemrick were. So we'll have to see if that will hold on for Busch His teammate Austin Dillon was about a 10th quicker. Here's Joey Logano on pit road with Kim Kuhn.
First round, Atlanta, Watkins Glen, Bristol. Is this one of the most stressful first rounds that we've seen in a long time?
Yes, for sure. But you just got to get through it, and all starts right now in qualifying. So hopefully our Auto Trader Mustangs got speed. It's been really good on the super speedways. But I mean, things always happen on super speedways. But at least we have fast cars, and we're scoring stage points. So hopefully we can qualify well, set ourselves further front, get stage points at least. And then if we can fight for the win, great. And then if not, we'll keep going to the next round. So feel good about it. We'll just wait and see what we got.
We're looking at a former winner here at Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta winning Joey Logano. That actually took place last season in the spring race. Logano's only win last year as well. Only win this year came at Nashville in that 5 overtime finish. So looking to get back to his winning ways here as we begin the postseason in 2024. Martin Truex Jr. was qualifying midst of that Joey Logano interview. He just missed out on the top 10. 11th fastest for Truex at 31.337. Few hundredths of a second off of Preece's top 10 time as of right now. So Ryan Preece on the bubble. And Ryan Blaney, former Atlanta winner from 2021 before the reconfiguration and repave that we have seen now. It's a spring race winner in 2021. We know how good Blaney is on these drafting tracks. Came really close to winning the race earlier this season at Atlanta. He was in that 3-wide finish. Truex, by the way, was the first of the playoff drivers to qualify in this race. Ryan Blaney, meanwhile, does jump to the top of the leaderboard. Surprising, as Blaney beats out Michael McDowell for the top time, both the front row cars for that matter. A 30.954. That lap McDowell had looked like it was going to be tough to beat. It was the first 30-second lap time we've seen today. Blaney beats it by 18 one-thousandths of a second. Didn't beat it by much, but just enough. Definitely going to be in the fast 10 and have a shot to re-qualify for the pole. It's an average lap speed of 179.104 miles per hour for Blaney. And an affiliated teammate for Penske, the Wood Brothers 21 machine, Blaney's former ride, in fact, is now on track. Harrison Burton, the Daytona winner from 2 weeks ago, trying to sneak his way into the top 10 in qualifying. He's another one of those Fords, so he's got a good chance to do it. It's amazing, though, that despite how fast Ford has been so far in the super speedways this year, qualifying and in the race, they're the dominant manufacturer. Super speedway race in and out. Yet Harrison Burton got them their first win on a super speedway just 2 weeks ago. Ford went winless through those first 3 super speedway races with the Daytona 500 and then the spring Atlanta and Talladega races. Burton does climb into the top 10, 31.208. That's going to be right there on the bubble. He's ahead of Gregson and Hemrick, which I thought was going to be the drivers right around 9th and 10th. He was 1 1,000th of a second quicker than Noah Gregson, so that could be just enough to get him in. 6th so far for Harrison Burton. Still quite a few qualifiers left remaining. And up next will be the first of 4 Hendrick Chevrolets, Alex Bowman, followed by William Byron and Ty Gibbs. Will be the next drivers after him. Shout outs to those of you watching that I haven't shouted out in the stream since the very beginning here, that I see in the chat at least. We got Kenneth Clark, Caleb Moore, JoJo, Easy E Network, John Fleming, Billy's Libraries, Matt Ladd, thanks for tuning in. Jeff Henson as well, Jose, Stu Isaac, Frank Powers, Marilee Boblé. Hopefully I said your last name correctly. Believe that's the pronunciation on that. Appreciate everybody tuning in here. Got quite a few of you guys in here. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. Our like goals are usually 50 for these qualifying and or practice and qualifying live streams for the Cup Series every weekend. So we should easily hit that goal here this weekend. We're at 43 currently, but almost 200 concurrent viewers. So be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more NASCAR content if you haven't yet. Again, live NASCAR commentary every race weekend. Streams during the week. This is a daily NASCAR channel. Like I mentioned already, Bowman on track, showing more pace on the super speedways and qualifying this weekend than what we've seen out of him most of this year. Obviously, prior to 2024, he was usually a guy that would go for the pole every time on a super speedway, but not the case this season for really Chevrolet in general, but especially Alex Bowman. We've seen a couple Hendrick cars qualify top 10 throughout the season on super speedways, but Bowman not one of them. This weekend, Bowman may get a top 10 starting spot as he jumped to 6th. Even quicker than Burton's time that he just put down moments ago. A 31.2 flat for Bowman as he sits 6th. And his teammate William Byron is now on the clock. Scum getting beat 14-3 by Texas. I'm a Buckeyes fan. Well, you know, I'm not going to lie. I was assuming that Michigan was going to lose today. The way they played last week, I know it's just 1 week into the season, but our offense is in shambles. I felt like our defense could have kept us into the game. My pregame prediction was 23-17 Texas. And I said that's if our offense could score that many points. When I was talking to my dad earlier about the game, and I'm like, yeah, if it's not going to be 23-17, if our offense doesn't even get that many points, I think it's going to be like 27-10. And it might be just that. Been kind of score tracking it here and there as we started the stream. Saw the first couple series of the game, too. But still got to represent. William Byron, by the way, even quicker than Alex Bowman in qualifying at 31.130. He was qualifying as I was talking about my Michigan Wolverines, so sorry for that. But Byron into the top 5. So we're definitely starting to see some quicker cars qualify as we get down to these playoff drivers. Definitely more of a mix, though, between manufacturers in the top 10 than what we've seen so far. At least between Ford and Chevrolet. Same out of the Toyotas that we've seen. Ty Gibbs just qualified 14th at 31.303 for him, so he'll miss out on the Fast 10. Again, we have not seen a Toyota qualify in the top 10 on a super speedway since Dega in the spring. None of them at Daytona 2 weeks ago. And if you look at the leaderboard right now, only 3 more Toyotas have to qualify, and so far the highest in qualifying is Gibbs, 14th out of 28 qualifiers. So only halfway up the leaderboard from what we've seen so far. Our last 10 drivers to qualify will be on the other side of the next commercial break that is currently airing on the USA Network. Final 10 in this order will be Daniel Suarez, then Austin Cindric, Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson. Larson will be the last driver to qualify here in round 1. And again, Ryan Blaney at the top of the speed charts with a 30.954, followed by Michael McDowell 2nd, Todd Gilliland 3rd, William Byron 4th, Josh Berry 5th, Austin Dillon 6th, Alex Bowman 7th, Harrison Burton 8th, Noah Gragson 9th, Daniel Hemrick 10th. So my prediction on the bubble times being Gragson and Hemrick, they're currently 9th and 10th, but still 10 qualifiers yet to go in this first round. So you might have to, you might have to get into the low 31 ones then if you're going to want to make it. We got a lot of good cars still to go. We'll see if that holds up. Again, be sure to hit the like button on the stream. Subscribe for more NASCAR content if you haven't yet. We'll take our first ad break of the stream. You're listening live on KRC. Mike H. and Dark Crypto also welcome into the stream. I see you guys popped in here recently. Yeah, interim / full-time head coach. I mean, last season, one thing that kind of helped, because I'm a very analytical person with anything. That's why I like commentating, when we do these streams. Obviously, huge NASCAR fan, but, I watch my football too. Analytically speaking, with the Michigan Wolverines, they have not covered the spread when Shamor Moore has been their head coach for all but the Ohio State game. But all their non-conference games at the early going last year when Jim Harbaugh was suspended at the beginning portion of the season, they did not cover the spread, and they didn't cover the spread again last week, so it led me to believe that they weren't going to win this weekend with Texas being favored. The stats alone. Stats don't lie. So, being touchdown underdogs here, I saw us losing by, 7+, honestly. And that would be around, score-wise what the game would be, because the defense is playing good. I think they'll, at least hold Texas to like a somewhat low score by Texas standards, but our offense is just in shambles. I don't think it's a whole lot of the head coach's fault when, we don't have a quarterback. I mean, I'm just going to be frank with you. There's no quarterback. They had a QB battle through the first week of the season. That's never good. Great Quaker State scheme on the Quaker State 400 car this weekend. Daniel Suarez, title sponsor for the race. I've always liked the Quaker State cars in NASCAR, even when Casey Kane had that sponsor back at Hendrick Motorsports there. In the 5-car a couple races a season. Paul Menard had a really good one for the Wood Brothers. He would always run in the Kentucky race. That was the Quaker State 400 at the time, and now Daniel Suarez the last couple years. So something about that green Quaker State logo. It just looks good on a car. Any World of Outlaw racing fans out there, Steve Kinzer had a great-looking Quaker State car for a long time as well. So yeah, I've always been a big fan of the Quaker State cars. Unfortunately, I did not put speed into this green race car this weekend. Daniel Suarez, 22nd in qualifying right now. Well behind even his teammate Ross Chastain, but he was the race winner here earlier this season. We'll see what can happen for Suarez on race day tomorrow. Again, 22nd of 29. Over half a second off of the fast time for Brian Blaney. Austin Cindric, Blaney's teammate, of course, is next. The second of 3 Penske cars to qualify, and he will finish out with a 31.131. Fifth for Austin Cindric. And that will be pretty close to locking his way into the Fast 10. Daniel Hemrick now has been bumped with Cindric moving into the Fast 10. So again, fifth for Cindric at 31.131. A little over a tenth and a half off of his teammate Blaney. But good in qualifying here, and he ran really good in the Atlanta Spring Race this season, so we'll see what Cindric can do here this weekend. Cindric's path route into qualifying for the playoffs, of course, took place at Gateway when he won on a fuel mileage race after his teammate Ryan Blaney ran out of gas on the final lap. And Cindric, who was running top 5 the whole day, was able to steal the win, and if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't be in the playoffs. He was outside the top 20 in the regular season standings through most of the year. He's actually the second to last driver in the playoffs from the regular season point standings. Only driver that was behind him was Harrison Burton, who was 34th. Brad Keselowski in the 6 is up next. His teammate Chris Buescher is now outside the top 10. I would imagine both the RFK Fords are going to be right around there. Always seem to race better than they qualify on the super speedways. Good start to the lap, though, for Keselowski. He's looking to put together a quicker time than that of Buescher. We'll see what he can trail through the straightaway. He was tracking in the green through the middle of 1 and 2, but once he got to the straightaway, it doesn't seem like the car is as trimmed out. Lost quite a bit of time, and he's not going to get it back on the other end of the track at 3 and 4. So 15th for Keselowski, a 31.288. Just a couple spots behind his teammate Buescher. So both RFK Fords will be starting mid-pack for tomorrow's race. And up next is Chase Elliott in the number 9.
You could even Cindric there with another Ford in mid. Home race for Chase Elliott. And we take you back just a couple of years to July of 22. Would it be amazing to get a home victory tomorrow, Jeff? Yeah, it gets a little rattly here when he wins. Yeah. Like the homecoming throughout the pitch in the Braves game last night. Different look for the Napa car. Was it a good throw? You know, it looked decent. It was a solo shot, so I can't really say that I saw how the ball traveled, but I'll give it credit. Sure. He gave it a little fist bump. Let's get him a bit of the doubt. He deserved it. Once it got to the catch-up. Looked like he was going to beat no aggressive speed, and then he got down in turn 3 and started going the other way. Still a reasonable qualifying effort here.
And a different color scheme on the 9 this weekend. It's designed by 2 of the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta patients, Gavin and Logan. And he loves it. He's excited to bring it to life tomorrow in the Quaker State 400. 13th for Chase Elliott. So that's helping Austin Cindric's plight as we pick up his teammate Joey Logano. We heard from Joey earlier when he spoke to Kim, ready to go, and he can handle these situations, and he's ready for it.
Of the 16 drivers we talked to this week, preference for this weekend, Logano, I think I don't know if impressed is the right word, but his attitude was the most interesting to me. Paul Wolf and Joe Logano have been here so many times that he said the playoffs are different, but we don't have to say anything for them to become different. He goes, the team just goes. And he felt like it's his entire team, pit crew, road crew, everyone that works in this team has so much experience that without anything being spoken, they know that it's the time of year that the performance has to go up.
I would say, and Jeff, keen to get your thoughts, but we spoke to all 16 playoff drivers. He was probably the most relaxed of the 16.
That surprised me. You know, he's been here, done that. He loves these moments, good qualifying effort. That will certainly transfer him into the top 10. But, you know, look, he loves these moments. He loves the pressure. And actually, I think he's his best when he's under pressure. And he knows to me, he's the perfect balance between being selfish when he needs to be, and then also doing the things he also needs to be as a champion of the sport. He just walks both lines very well.
Continuing to work our way through the playoff drivers. And up next, Tyler Reddick in the 45, regular season champion. And that was something that he was particularly proud of, not just to win the regular season, but the way in which he did it under duress last weekend in Darlington. He was seriously ill, and he just said it was one of the toughest experiences of his professional career. He had stomach pains, stomach aches. He didn't know whether he wanted to throw up. He was really battling it and did so many hours after the checkered flag fell. That was a tremendous performance. Qualifying didn't quite go his way. 21st.
Yeah, again, one of the Toyotas, and they just for whatever reason, just don't qualify that great at the draft and style racetracks. They'll be in contention. Yeah, consistent though. Gibbs at a 30, Truex at 33, Reddick at 33. So, you know, whatever they have as a manufacturer, they're sharing with one another. They're kind of all at the same top end of the speed. We'll see if Denny Hamlin in the 11 matches that pace or finds any more.
Best of the Toyotas in this qualifying session, 18th. Ty Gibbs, as Steve mentioned.
I think this sounds crazy talking about Denny Hamlin, but I think this is a very important race for this team. You know, way off pace right here. Way off pace.
Like almost something wrong.
Yeah, there's something. That is way off. And what I started to say is that, you know, this team was moving forward like championship contender, and then they got hit with that massive penalty for the engine problem. And how do they overcome that? And if this time in the scoring is accurate, then starting the playoffs, 2 seconds off in qualifying. Yeah, I mean,
that's 35th. Denny Hamlin.
This team has to feel like they're on their heels. They are playing a little bit of defense at the low. They've been on offense. The moment that penalty came out, I think it was one of those moments where, oh no, it's not meant to be. How do you overcome that? And now this. Now, whatever's wrong with this car, that's not the start of the playoffs that you
What
wanted.
just happened?
I mean, he's 2 seconds off. There's something mechanically wrong with this car, either with the powertrain. I mean, something is for sure.
It looked like it was bouncing quite a bit. I wonder if it's riding too much on the diffuser.
Organization can just be that far off in raw speed without something mechanically amiss. We'll have to follow up on this.
Bouncing on the ride limiters or something.
Recent winner. And the Stewart-Haas Ford, Chase Briscoe. Still buzzing, still smiling, still can't believe the way that it went down. Loved the way that he did it with that spectacular and very decisive pass to go to the lead and get the win. He's right on that fringe. A little bit of red, a little bit of green. He's on the right side at the moment, Jeff.
Wow, I didn't think he had a chance at it going down the back straightaway and winning at turn 3 and picked up half of a tenth of a second through 3 and 4.
That'll do nicely. That guarantees him a top 10 performance. He'll come back in this top 10 showdown to get pole. Let's take you back to last weekend, Steve. And what a moment this was.
This was the move right here, 3 wide, all the way to the bottom. And it was able to kind of get by Larson as he got stuck up with Chastain. But that was only the start of the battle. Then he had to hold off Kyle Busch, reminiscent of an Xfinity Series battle they had before. And he did it. I mean, lap after lap. They pulled over a 5-second gap back to third place. That's how hard those two drivers were running at the front of the field.
He said, I think I may have caught Larson napping a little bit. We asked Kyle, what did you think of the move? He said, first class. It was a terrific move. Full credit to Chase Briscoe. It was awesome. We'll see Larson in a moment. Right after this guy has finished in the Ream Toyota, it's Christopher Bell.
So he was the one I thought was the most relaxed. I agree with you, Joey Logano. He was kind of in there. But I don't know, Christopher Bell, it wasn't even really what he said. He just looked happy, just excited, and ready to go. Yeah, he was funny because he's like, I've been telling y'all we're the fastest for 2 or 3 years, and we hadn't won it yet. And I know, but I know we can't. You know, and he just has supreme confidence. And look, it's not arrogance. It's just confidence. And again, another Toyota not qualifying well, but they will race fine. The question is, can they get to the front before the end of the first stage to get stage points? That really is a challenge for them qualifying when they qualify.
And that leaves just one. The man with the most points heading into the playoffs, courtesy of his wins and stage wins this year. For Hendrick Motorsports, it's Kyle Larson to shape out the top 10.
If he does advance it and knock Bowman out,
it's a top 10 that is well represented by the Blue Oval. Lots of Fords in there.
watch the speed. That's what makes this track so amazing. 178 at the end of the straightaway. It's only going to slow down to 174 in the middle corner. 173 right there at the tightest part of the corner.
And Kyle Larson slots himself into the 4th position. And yes, there's a head-scratching moment for Denny Hamlin and the 11 team. What happened?
Well, definitely not something you want to see if you're a Denny Hamlin fan, that is for sure. We do have our Fast 10 in order. Ryan Blaney, fastest overall with a 30.954. He was one of the first playoff drivers to go out and qualify. I think he was the second one to be exact. So average speed of 179.104 miles per hour. We may see an increase in lap times when we get into round 2. We usually see that on the super speedways. From one lap to the next, of course, everybody using the same set of tires. Just a little bit more heat in the engine, of course, when we get into that second round. they will requalify in descending order of how they finished round 1. So the 10th place driver, Austin Dillon, will be the first driver to qualify for this second and final round. And of course, the top time gets the pole, and it's all the same lap times. Sorry, not the same lap time, but the positioning order, the top 10 will just be all requalified in general through this second and final round. So only the top 10 will get a chance to requalify. Again, Ryan Blaney first, Michael McDowell second, Joey Logano third, Kyle Larson snuck into fourth. He was the last driver to qualify. He timed in at a 31.069. Fifth, Todd Gillen, William Byron sixth, Austin Cindric seventh, Chase Briscoe eighth, Josh Berry ninth, and Austin Dillon 10th. So the order you see on the screen right now is just numerical order. That is not the order in which they will qualify. I'll give the actual order here in a little bit. The rest of the positions, 11 through 38, this is where your drivers who did not make the top 10 will start for tomorrow's Quaker State 400. So Alex Bowman was 11th, Harrison Burton 12th, Noah Gregson 13th, Daniel Hemrick 14th, Kyle Busch 15th, Chase Elliott 16th, Chris Buescher 17th, Ross Chastain 18th, Brad Keselowski 19th, Ty Gibbs, the fastest Toyota, in 20th. Ryan Preece 21st, Martin Truex Jr. 22nd, Tyler Reddick 23rd, Bubba Wallace 24th, Corey LaJoie 25th, Christopher Bell 26th, 27th for Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Shane Van Gisbergen 28th, Justin Haley 29th, Daniel Suarez 30th, Cody Ware 31st, Carson Hocevar 32nd, Eric Jones 33rd, Zane Smith 34th, 35th for John Hunter Nemechek, BJ McLeod 36th, 37 JJ Yaley, and Denny Hamlin 38th. So that is the order from round 1. Again, 11 through 38 are locked into their starting spots for tomorrow. No drivers going home with only 38 entries out of a max 40. And as far as round 2 of qualifying, we'll get that started here shortly, giving these drivers, I should say teams, time to cool the engines off, especially for those who just qualified. As again, we will go in descending order of how they finished round 1. We'll take another ad break. In the meantime, you're listening live on KRC to the Quaker State 400 qualifying at Atlanta.
Well, we're here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, just a few hours north at ZMAX Dragway in Concord, North Carolina. It's also playoffs time. In the SMX World Championship, it's playoff day 1. Yes, you're going to see all the big names. Jed Lawrence, Chase Sexton, who had a fall earlier today in practice, and Hayden Deegan. Both 450, 250 action. The SMX World Championship playoffs begin, and you will see that at 3 p.m. Eastern today. There's an encore presentation, by the way, tomorrow on NBC. Then it's off to Texas and the World Championship finale in Vegas. SMX World Championship start today, and that is going to be awesome. So let's come back to NASCAR Cup Series mode, and it's day 1 of the playoffs as well. Qualifying, and here's how it shook out the playoff drivers in yellow.
Yeah, Ryan Blaney. Michael McDowell's been the guy who got beat for the pole. Ryan Blaney and Penske brought some speed. Joey Logano in third. It'll be interesting to see if they can back up that pace. A rerun definitely changed a little bit of the look in Xfinity earlier today. But the length of stage 1 qualifying is so important for these playoff drivers. They can kind of just stay out the whole stage and see if they can capture those very important points.
7 Fords, 3 Chevys, and Ryan Blaney bouncing back from that. Joe Giara asking questions.
Alrighty, so again, the P in parentheses on our leaderboard indicates a driver is in the playoffs. If there's a hashtag, that means they're a rookie. Nothing by them, that means they're not a rookie or in the playoffs. All of the playoff drivers, the 16, are the same for the owners and the driver standings in the Cup Series. First time we've seen that in a minute. And as far as the Xfinity and the Truck Series playoff field, that is not the case because we had some Cup regulars winning in cars that aren't being driven full-time by Xfinity Series drivers, so those will be a little different. But no Xfinity winners in Cup this year, no part-time winners like we had seen in the last few seasons. Or, drivers getting in like when Chase Elliott missed the drivers' standings last year, but the 9 car got in with the owners' playoffs. I believe the same for the 48 of Bowman as well. Alrighty. Getting close to qualifying. Again, be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. Let's see if we can get to 100. Let's try to double our like goal. We're at 73. Currently, our goal was to get to 50. We have hit that, so greatly appreciate it. But let's see if we can top that, get to 100. We still have well more than that many people watching right now. So again, be sure to hit that like button. Yeah, Fords have dominated in qualifying on the super speedways all season, so I would imagine that that will still be the same here today. It'll be tough to beat a Ford. Though Kyle Larson was 4th, quickest of the Chevys. 7 Fords, 3 Chevrolets in the top 10, and again, no Toyotas. Highest qualifying Toyota, Ty Gibbs, who was 20th. Denny Hamlin dead last in 38th. Though something was just mechanically wrong with that race car, you would imagine. I noticed there was way difference in speed going into the first turn for Denny Hamlin. He only hit like 167 miles per hour versus like Larson's lap, who was 4th, was at 176 miles per hour when he entered turn 1. So, yeah, something not right there for the 11 car. It looked like the air pressure was, too low, that's the reason it was, bottoming out, which was probably taking a lot of the speed. I would assume it's bottoming out. I mean, the way the car was bouncing around when they showed the in-car camera of Hamlin during his qualifying lap. So they were probably just down on the ride limiters a little too much, which we have seen from Toyota in the past. Remember, Eric Jones had that same problem on a super speedway earlier this year. I think it was at Atlanta in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, because he almost actually wrecked the car. Got loose a couple different times. This one, though, a JGR Toyota versus a Legacy Motor Club Toyota from the 43 earlier this spring in the Atlanta qualifications. Alrighty. So again, Austin Dillon will be the first driver to qualify. After Austin Dillon, pull my lineup back on screen. We'll have Austin Dillon first, then Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, and William Byron. Those will be the first 5 drivers to qualify in order. Todd Gillen will then be 5th, Kyle Larson 6th, Joey Logano 7th, Michael McDowell 8th, Ryan Blaney. Oh, sorry, I missed somebody there. Let me restart that. Austin Dillon 10th from round 1, so he will qualify first. Then Josh Berry, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, William Byron will be the first 5, followed by Todd Gillen 6th, Kyle Larson 7th, Joey Logano, Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney, who was top in round 1, will re-qualify for a shot at the pole in round number 2. I don't know. I see your guys' takes on like racing today versus, way back when or whatever in NASCAR. I would, up against like some of the greats from like the 90s, for instance. I mean, obviously with the cars being much different, you're in the same car at the same amount of time. You can't tell me Kyle Busch wouldn't go out there and compete with them. Maybe not Kyle Busch today, but prime Kyle Busch. I mean, the guy won over 60 races in the NASCAR Cup Series. And he did win races in the Gen 4 car, which was the same car that they drove all the way through the 90s. Kyle Busch's career started in 2005 with Hendrick Motorsports. Yeah, he did win a couple races a season those first couple years. Yeah, in that very car. So I don't know. I don't know about that. I wouldn't say all of them. Even Kevin Harvick, who just retired last year, for instance, he started his career in 2001. You know, he drove those same cars. He, too, also in the top dozen in the wins list whole time. Denny Hamlin's inching his way closer. Started around that same time frame. You know, won a bunch of races. Say what you will about Hamlin. I think Larson, even though he was never in those cars, you can tell the raw natural speed he has any race car he drives in. You know, not just a NASCAR where, you know, like you mentioned, they have stage breaks now, so putting a full race together is a little different nowadays than what it used to be, obviously, with the brakes, you know, the intermediate cautions, you can push harder. And that's part of the reason why we do see a lot of tenured drivers, I guess you would say, winning at tracks that have a lot of tire degradation because they were used to that style of racing the early portion of their careers. The cars just have so much more mechanical grip now, obviously, than what they used to. So I mean, it's just different for sure. But there are definitely at least a select few that can hold their own. Got Austin Dillon currently finishing up his qualifying lap on screen, 31.120. Again, he was the first driver to qualify in this second and final round, and he did pick up from round 1 to round 2. I think he had a 31.167. Let me fact check that real quick. Let's see here. Yeah, 31.167. So he picked up about 400ths of a second, almost 500ths from round 1 to round 2. Larson would have done better with higher horsepower cars. Yeah, that's what I would have thought too. That's why I'm surprised when he came back in 2021 that he won as many races as he did. Not the fact that he had like a full year off from the Cup Series, even though he kept racing outside. You know, I'm a firm believer in what makes Larson as good as he is right now is the amount of times he races. I mean, I feel like that is a large reason why, you know, even like a Kyle Busch, for instance, who hasn't had as much success the last few years in NASCAR, his last couple years, JGR, RCR, he's not in the car as much. He's not racing Xfinity as much every weekend. Obviously, he's only limited to 5 starts there a season. Truck, 5 starts there a season. I don't even think he made an Xfinity start this year, to be honest, as well. So I definitely think more time in the car is better for these drivers. So if you were to match, you know, a lot of guys up from 20, 30 plus years ago to where they are, you know, right now, you know, that alone, the lack of experience just at every single track, even if you put them in the same car, probably would be a lot different. Meanwhile, here's Denny Hamlin.
And the team tomorrow, though, and any concern in tomorrow's race?
Means we start last, and then we'll just battle to the front. Our Mavis camera, I'm sure it's going to be pretty good tomorrow. We you know, feel good about what we brought. Just yeah, got to get to the finish.
You know, one thing worth noting, yes, he's going to start last, but
I don't think Hamlin's too worried about the speed in his race car. I think he probably knows what they did wrong for qualifying, and they're going to go back on that, and the race car will be fine for tomorrow during the race. I would imagine that will end up being the case. So Josh Berry, meanwhile, was qualifying while Hamlin was talking in that interview. A 31.068 is what Berry ended up on his qualifying lap. Chase Briscoe ended up with a 31.131, so he was third quickest of 3. So Berry, Dillon, Briscoe, top 3, 7 drivers still to qualify. And up next will be Austin Cindric in the 2.
We think you would be able to better the times as they go, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's going to be a sleepless night for the 11.
it is. On the other side of things, maybe the wreck starts in 20th and you're back at 38 because of that. You know, so you just don't. Look, it's super speedway racing on a mile and a half. It's going to be chaos. It's going to be chaotic, and he has, you know, most of the day to get where he needs to get.
Next on track, the winner from Worldwide Technology Raceway or Gateway, Austin Cindric. That was the 10th pole moment of the season that enabled this Team Penske driver to be in this position, to be in the playoffs. And here he is here, fighting for the best grid spot he can get. Finished top 5 here earlier in the year, so there's lots of positives. As Stephen Jeff said earlier, flowing the way of the 2. runs well on this style of track. Feeling good. And he's in the green, just tipped over into the red. It's close.
Talk about drivers with confidence. You know, when we met with all the drivers, I felt like he was very relaxed as well. And you would think for a young driver, may not be so relaxed, but he was, fast. Actually, P2 right here, he was very relaxed, confident, and just, hey, we just need to do our jobs. We do our jobs, we'll find. We just execute the way this team can execute. We'll get out of round one. And he felt like they didn't have to change a lot. And I think that's a good mindset heading into the playoffs.
Josh Berry stands by, watches another one come and go. So he withstands the challenge from his teammate. He withstands the challenge from Austin Cindric. And that decisively, number 4 driver for Stewart-Haas sits on top. But there's plenty more fast guys to come. Here comes William Byron.
The playoff drivers, they know tomorrow that all the guys that aren't in the playoffs are going to be racing like they're racing for a championship. And that's what they're afraid of the most. Josh Berry, Austin Dillon, McDowell, Gilliland, Noah Gragson, all those guys, they're going to be racing to win. And how does that affect you? And at other racetracks, Steve, you can be a little respectful. You can give a guy a little bit more room because he's in the playoffs, but not here. Here you have to get in there and mix it up. It's going to be a heavyweight fight, and the only way to win a heavyweight fight is to be in the ring throwing punches. And I can guarantee you that non-playoff guys will affect this race.
And look at that little wry smile from Josh Berry. He's like, yep, okay, William Byron has given it his best, and I'm still on top. Berry, by the way, has qualified second a couple of times. Could this be the day that he gets his first Cup Series pole? We'll see.
There's a chance at it. I mean, he's in a Ford. The problem is we still have 2 more Penske cars to go, including the fastest driver from round 1, Ryan Blaney. Both the front row cars who swept the front row as well at Daytona a couple weeks ago, one of which is qualifying right now. Todd Gilliland in the 38 is on track, and Gilliland actually just finishing his lap up a 31.012, top of the charts for Gilliland. So no, Berry will not qualify on the pole for the first time in his Cup career here this weekend. So your top 6 in qualifying so far, you got Gilliland first, Josh Berry second, Austin Cindric third, Austin Dillon fourth, William Byron fifth, and Chase Briscoe sixth. A little over a 500th of a second difference between Gilliland and Berry for P1 and P2. Final 4 qualifiers will be Kyle Larson, then Joey Logano, Michael McDowell, and Ryan Blaney in that order. Larson the last Chevy, and then 3 Fords still to go. We'll see if Larson can still hold up about as good of a lap time as he had from round 1 to round 2. In the green at least, so Larson definitely not going to get the pole time from Gilliland at the very least. But he does slot himself in 4th, fastest of the 3 Chevys in round 2 of qualifying. So still 3 Fords at the top of the leaderboard with 3 more remaining. Briscoe's just missed it compared to the rest of the Fords, it looks like, in this final round of qualifying. Strong chance that these Fords can lock out the top 6 positions in qualifying. Very strong possibility of that. Top 3 from round 1 still to go. Joey Logano on track currently. As soon as qualifying wraps up, we'll have the full rundown of the starting order for tomorrow's Quaker State 400. Chick Hicks. Raymond Coolis, my dog Fulton, thanks for tuning in. Let's see, there's a couple other people that tuned in recently as well. Dale Opplinger, John Draper, Some of those that I haven't shouted out yet throughout the stream. Logano, fifth for Logano with a 31.83. A 31.083. So Logano again, 31.083. Fifth for him. Not as fast as Larson's lap. Actually, they ran the same identical lap time to the 1,000th of a second, but Larson, I guess to the next decimal point, would have been a little bit quicker than Joey. Michael McDowell in the 34 is now on track as he tries to go for his 6th pole of the season. Insane that he's got that many poles this year, considering he didn't have any in his NASCAR Cup career prior to this year. 3 of them on super speedways, trying to go for a 4th on this style of racetrack and sweep the pole award at Atlanta this season. He was the pole sitter here in the spring, and he jumps to the top of the speed charts again. A 30.927 he does pick up from round 1 to round 2, and that is the fastest lap we've seen in qualifying so far today. Faster than Blaney's lap from round 1. Blaney had a 30.954 in round 1. Again, a 30.927 here in round 2 for McDowell, and now Ryan Blaney, the last driver to go. We know the time he has to beat. Got to get through the gears efficiently, leaving pit road. All these cars around the top end of the racetrack on their warm-up lap, trying to carry as much speed as they can, taking the longest route around, give them that extra time for the engines to rev up, the RPMs, I should say, to rev up and drop down to the start-finish line and take the shortest route around the racetrack once the actual qualifying lap begins. Blaney close, but not going to get the pole. A 31 flat for Ryan Blaney as he dropped off from round 1 to round 2. One of the few drivers who had a slower lap in round 2 than they did in round 1. Second place for Blaney and a 73 1,000th of a second margin for first to second. Michael McDowell on the pole for the 6th time this season. We still got one more super speedway race yet, so he might get yet another pole. Most poles we've seen from one driver this year. Great job by McDowell. And really, Front Row Motorsports as a whole to bring this much speed in for qualifying. Super speedway in and super speedway out. Again, not all of his poles on super speedways either this season, so great run. Of course, this is the final year for McDowell in the 34 car before moving to Spire Motorsports next season. But going out in style, we'll see if he can get a win before the season's up as well. As here is your pole sitter McDowell on pit road with Kim Kuhn.
Poles earned. How good did that?
5 poles, sorry, not 6. I apologize for that.
Front row. We knew we'd have a shot based on Daytona. We sat on the pole here earlier, but to get this blaster Ford Mustang, it's 5th pole of the year. We still got Talladega ahead too, so we're trying to win the most poles. Watkins Glen's coming up, so just keep fighting hard, but really proud of the effort.
How great speed you have, we know that, but handling matters here at Atlanta tomorrow. Things will be way different in the draft. Conditions a little bit different as well. What do you have for tomorrow?
You know, that's one thing I think we've done well is even here in the spring, we led a lot of laps. Our car drove really well, and we were up front all day. And at Daytona, we had a lot of speed, and obviously crashed there in the end. So it hasn't been a compromise. You know, our qualifying effort hasn't hurt our race effort. We just got a lot of speed in these Ford Mustangs, so it's been pretty wild.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
For the 5th time this year, Michael McDowell will lead the field.
Sorry for the error on the stat line there. 5th pole of the season for McDowell, not his 6th. It's his 6th front row start this season, as he was on the pole, or on the front row, excuse me, for the Daytona 500 back in February. He started 2nd in that race, so 6th front row start, but it is his 5th pole. That still ties him, though, for the most of the season with that of Kyle Larson. It'll be interesting to see who will end up with the most at season's end. Again, one more super speedway left. McDowell can get it there. And then, obviously, other races, Larson can potentially get it. We'll go through the full running order of how the starting lineup will look for the start of tomorrow's race. Again, Michael McDowell, Ryan Blaney on the front row here. McDowell, the non-playoff driver, upsetting on pole day. We'll see on race day tomorrow if he can get his first win of the season. His teammate Todd Gillen inside of row 2 with Josh Berry, another Ford driver, on the outside of that row. In row 3, it'll be Austin Cindric and Kyle Larson. Larson, the highest qualifying Chevrolet. And row number 4, row 4 will be Joey Logano and Austin Dillon. Row number 5, William Byron with Chase Briscoe, and that rounds out the top 10. In row number 6, Alex Bowman with Harrison Burton. Noah Gregson and Daniel Hemrick in row 7. Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, row 8. Row 9 for Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain. Row number 10 will be Brad Keselowski and Ty Gibbs. Ryan Preece, Martin Truex Jr. in row 11. Row 12 for Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. Corey LaJoie and Christopher Bell in row 13. Row 14 for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Shane Van Gisbergen. Justin Haley, Daniel Suarez in row 15. Row 16, Cody Ware and Carson Hocevar. Row 17 for Eric Jones, Zane Smith. John Hunter Nemechek, BJ McLeod in row 18. And then row 19, J.J. Yaley and Denny Hamlin. So that is your starting lineup for tomorrow's Quaker State 400 based off of today's qualifying session. Once again, be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content as well. We will be live for today's NASCAR Xfinity Series race at 3 p.m. Eastern. About 1 hour from now, we will be live for that one. And we will also be live for the NASCAR Cup Series race tomorrow. We will start that a little earlier as we will have pre-race predictions for both the race and the playoffs, as it is the start of the postseason tomorrow. So we'll begin our starting stream time at 2:30 Eastern. So again, 2:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern here today for the Xfinity race. Hope to see you for both of those streams. Hit the like button on your way out if you haven't done so yet. Thank you for allowing us to get to our goal of 50, but we'll see if we can get to 100 here as we round the stream out. Subscribe for more NASCAR content on the daily, live commentary streams for Truck Xfinity Cup Series races, as well as Cup practice and qualifying streams, midweek gaming streams, and much more. See you guys in a little bit. I'm going to grab something to eat, and I'll see you guys soon.